Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Mindset. In this particular episode, I'm going to be talking about why I think Pulsechain is going to be the number one blockchain. So it's a bold claim, it's a bold statement, and I'd love to stand behind it. And I'm really going to mount evidence for that and what I believe to be evidence for that in terms of what I'm actually seeing happening with the blockchain at the moment and the development of the community. So I have covered this in previous video where I've spoken about the city, and I like using that analogy of this pulse chain city and how it's actually growing, how it's expanding. And I really feel like now, if we expand on that analogy, the city is really, everything's really starting to get almost completely set up. And as you start to really set up a city, what actually happens is the consciousness of the city starts to develop. And the consciousness of the city, in my opinion, is really undergoing an age of enlightenment. There's really something that's probably one of my favorite periods in architectural history, the age of enlightenment. There was a lot of philosophy and a lot of it was like the age of reason, age of enlightenment. A lot of things were being discovered about science, about reality, and a lot of big shifts and changes in the world. And it's really led to where we are at the moment. Everything leads to where we are. It's all a developing story, but that's probably one of my favorite periods in history. So with that said, I'm going to go through this particular episode. I hope you find it interesting. Personally, this stuff I love. I love history, so I hope you really find this interesting as well, because it has a lot of thought put into it, and it was really triggered by these episodes that I've been seeing from Lit, the streams from My Life is Awesome, and particularly the one that he did with Crypto Coffee yesterday, which was just brilliant. And the topics that they were talking about, like Crypto Coffee, I really love Crypto Coffee's mindset and how he actually understands the mind and how he actually talks about it and manifesting. And I just love his mindset. I love it. So it really inspired me to do this particular episode and add my personal spin to it. So I hope you enjoy it. So as always, Genesis Mindset for investing, trading, and only. This is personal opinion only. It's not financial advice. There's nothing about, if I say, I mean, this is just like a prediction that I think it's going to be the number one, but it's just for entertainment purposes only. So with that, why Pulse Chain is going to be the number one blockchain, and I really do believe that. And I've got this pretty little picture here of this little age of enlightenment city. So this is where we are now with Pulse Chain. So I'm going to go through. I think this is going to be something that I'm going to continue to do, but at the moment, this is my first attempt at kind of unpacking this idea and putting it into a logical sequence that might be something that you can connect with. So first, I want to start with the consciousness, and I really want to set the scene of what consciousness actually means. So everything in the universe, in my opinion, is, well, yeah, my opinion, but it's going to be proven as a fact over time, is consciousness. So there's just energy and consciousness. So there's the body, which is the mother, and conscious and the mind, which is the father. So you have the energy, which is the mother, and you have consciousness, which is the father. So body, mind, energy, light, emptiness, consciousness. So mother, father. So here we go. We got no other side, mother, father. So everything in the universe is this. So single-celled organism. So everything basically starts from something. It starts from something, and everything has life. It has life because the universe itself is life. And that life, again, is energy and consciousness. So everything is just energy, and it's imbued with consciousness. So single-celled organisms. And as you start to get higher degrees of complexity, things like insects, reptiles, birds, animals, the consciousness is more advanced. And then, of course, you get to humans. And so even before you get to humans, people think like, we always think from the human perspective of, oh, like, how does a bird know where to go to get food? It's like so incredible. And it's so wondrous. But that bird is not thinking. The bird's not like, where's the next meal coming from? My wife's going to leave me if I can't find a meal. How are the kids going to feel if I don't feed them? The bird's not thinking any of that. The bird's consciousness is just the universe. The bird doesn't have an individual consciousness. It's only humans who think things have an individual consciousness. That's why we look at a bird and say, oh, that bird, how does it know these things? Because we're looking at it from the human perspective, from inside of our mind world, where we see things in individualities, where we see things in separation. And this is actually the only flaw in the universe, is this false human mind. Everybody's own individual false human mind is the one and only flaw in the universe. It is the source of every single problem, every single sickness, every single disease, nothing else but that. So if you continue to expand that, ideas, trees, plants, everything is just tied to that consciousness. And you even see, like, they've done experiments where you'll cut a leaf and it will still show like the energy there. And people are like, oh, it's like it's thinking that it's still there, but it's really, again, it's just the consciousness. And everything, it's just maths, it's physics, it's whatever you want to call it, the source, God, Buddha, Allah, whatever you want to call it. It is the consciousness. It's all just the same thing to me, and I love using all of those names. Allah, I'm actually learning a little bit about Islam at the moment, and I love the similarities. I love it. I love seeing those similarities. So obviously, also then, just by logical deduction, the universe also should have a consciousness, because if everything in existence has some kind of functional consciousness that it does things according to its form and its shape, then why would the universe not be the same? So therefore, logically, I deduce, just because everything in existence has a mother and a father, then also the universe is our mother and our father. So for me, it's just a matter of fact. So this is just, it's just the property of energy. It's universally applicable. It just goes without saying, in my opinion. So now I want to use architecture as an example, because obviously with an architectural background, I find it very easy to explain the history. So it's the same for the history of humanity. So throughout history, we've gone from huts to villages, to towns, to kingdoms, to cities. So there's an increasing level of complexity. And with each increased level of complexity, the complexity of the consciousness also increases. So the complexity of the architecture also increases. So there's kind of like three basic things in architecture. You have the utilitarian aspect of it, which is going back to huts and villages. It's really just about materials and construction and technology. And then as time went by, we start to, as humans, we see things in a different way. We understand beauty. So art starts to be imbued in architecture. So we start to do things that are beautiful just for the sake of beauty in and of itself. And we start to feel and have that inherent quality of beauty. And the qualities of beauty are all related to, this is my opinion actually about the beauty, is about how these things actually tie together and the logic of the thing. And actually beauty is just something that's really, really kind of hard to describe, to be completely honest. And then now, if we move into where we are now with architecture, consciousness. So the mind that goes into what the actual building is. There wasn't these kinds of things, say, 300 years ago. Always, it would just represent the qualities and the consciousness of the time. So each architectural period represents these basic elements: the material, construction, technology, the art of the time, and the consciousness of the time. And now, more than ever, consciousness is really at the forefront of what architecture is, because it's really about the idea in architecture. They didn't really have this. When we had, if I was practicing architecture 300 years ago, I wouldn't be thinking about these things. I'd be thinking about, I'm designing this church and it's a devotion to God, and I'm using this other church as like a precedent, and I'm just creating this thing which is beautiful based on the material and the construction methods. But now in architecture, there's this idea of ideas. So it's like, okay, what does this building mean? So you have modernism. So modernism came along. What does this building mean? What's the idea? What's the thinking behind this? Form follows functions. There's all these, the consciousness. So it all the things in society, philosophy, science, history, all these things are being added into what the building is. And the building is an expression of the society, which is something that I love. And then you have like postmodernism, which is really like questioning even the concept of what is an idea. And that's where I really feel like we are in society. It's like, what is reality? What is this? What is the matrix? What is God? What is the universe? That's really where we are. And that's where we are in architecture as well. So then, therefore, there is going to be like a new era of architecture in the future, when the consciousness of the world also upgrades and changes. There's going to be something completely new, which we won't even expect, or we won't even know. And that's how these things work. And so if I relate this to blockchain, obviously the blockchain itself is the architecture, it's the city. So it's the design of the code. So in the same way that the city and the architecture is the design of the society, the blockchain is the code. So that's the structure of where the consciousness actually gets imbued into it. The ideas actually get imbued into it. And so where do those ideas come from? They come from society. And again, single-celled organisms, insects, bugs, worms, all these kinds of things, up to humans, society is exactly the same. It's a developing idea. There's always a developing idea. It's you go down to the very quantum scale. You have quarks and whatever they are. I can't remember the names, but then it goes up to like the nucleus, and then you got the nucleus in the center, then the electrons, and then it goes out into an atom, and then the atoms form the DNA, and the DNA forms the cells, and then it ends up forming an eyeball, and it ends up forming a brain and a human being. And it's like, but it's all can be broken down to this thing that has this kind of intelligent thing, this intelligence that actually advances out into more complexity, and the complexity itself is really just the consciousness. So in the same way, society is exactly the same. We first had societies that started with tribes, so you'd have like tribal leaders ruling things and dictating things, then you'd have kings, and then it would advance up to councils, and then democracies. And now we're at a pivotal point where, okay, is it democracies, or what is it going to be? I think it's going to be some form of democracy, but it's gone from this individual source, again, going down from the cell, which is the tribal leader, to the king, which is encompassing like a larger atom, and then councils, which is like a higher degree of complexity because it's managing and considering a higher degree. Then you have democracy, which was in ancient Greece. They were the inventors of democracy. And then, of course, you have like America, which is like the most advanced form of democracy. And each new system emerges out of the ashes of the old. So it's an advancement of the old. So there's always this tension between, particularly now, it's very obvious, you've got conservatives and you've got progressives. So you've got the left and the right, other way around. So yeah, conservatives and progressives. So the conservatives and the progressives. So the right and the left. You get the point. It's hard because things are like, I think, mirrored on here. But the whole point is there's this tension between the conservatives, which is trying to keep things as it is. So they are the function of past, and then progressives, they are the functions of the future. Where can things go? How can things be? Now, it doesn't really seem like that is really playing out as much as it should in politics. It's really been bastardized by money, actually. So it isn't serving the function that it should, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. It's like, which puppet master at the end of the day? It's like the money behind it is doing the talking anyway. It's not really about the democracy anymore, because it's been so polluted with money. And so even USA separated from England, the kingdom. So it separated from the monarchy, that idea, and it formed its own republic, which is a beautiful idea. And that's why they were like the most powerful society on the planet Earth for so long. But now we're in this era of globalism. So what is globalism actually going to mean? So we've got the bug eaters who want us to eat bugs. They want us to eat the bugs. So we were talking about this the other day, or just today, with the WEF. They're going to want us to eat bugs. So they're trying to introduce these things about, forming like cricket farms. And it's like, well, yeah, okay. What for me, it's like, what's the difference whether you eat like the muscles, you're eating the muscles from like a cow or a lamb or whatever? It's the same thing. What's the difference between a bug? It's like whatever, it's still protein. But it's more the fact that they're going to make us eat the bugs, and they're going to be like, they're going to be gorging on seafood and continuing to pillage the oceans and desecrate the landscapes to keep making cows for McDonald's and creating all these greenhouse gases and destroying like every rainforest there is on the planet just to keep feeding us with McDonald's, which is just like utter trash food, like absolute junk trash food, which causes so much problems in the body and in the mind. And so now, what is the society with cryptocurrency? It's the collective consciousness of the community, which you see in Twitter spaces. So this is like, the Twitter spaces are like the coffee houses in the age of enlightenment, where people would gather and talk about how we're going to make this better, how we're going to make this blockchain better, or how we're going to make this city better. And now we're actually seeing that with, Twitter spaces, Telegram. So people are clustering in these things and forming communities, which is advancing the consciousness of the blockchain, which is a very interesting or very fascinating idea. And the freedom with which we can do it, in particular with something like, man, Twitter is brilliant. Twitter spaces, and the ease of it. You can just be in the backyard with your kids and you can join in a conversation with, Elon Musk, having a conversation with Alex Jones, for example. It's a phenomenal way of connection, and that human connection is an absolute requirement for the advancement of the collective consciousness. That's what advances it, because it's not just, oh, I'm the most cleverest person on the planet, look at me. It's not that. It's the combination of clever people that actually, the collective consciousness, which is the beauty, and it's the combination of those minds which actually advances a society, which also therefore advances a blockchain. And the way that I'm seeing this advancement in Pulsechain is something that it's difficult to say whether it's better than any other blockchain, but I certainly don't see it in any other blockchain in the same degree that I see it with Pulsechain. But I also have very narrow vision because I'm very much in Pulsechain and the Hex ecosystem. So again, you have to take this with a grain of salt. Okay, so moving on to the consciousness behind Pulsechain, so freedom of speech. So just like everything that develops over time in degrees of complexity, as it becomes more complex, it's imbued with a higher degree of consciousness. And now we're entering into this kind of age of enlightenment with Pulsechain, where we're starting to see the changes from the movement from Hex to Pulsechain. So even when we first launched on Pulsechain, the tension in the community of like being maxis, nothing wrong with being maxis. They serve a fundamental purpose, but that consciousness of Hex and that tension of like, this is the one cryptocurrency and we all want to just filter our profits into this one cryptocurrency and then all want to just focus on this one cryptocurrency. That was the old consciousness, the old model. And now we've moved into a blockchain, which is Pulsechain. So there's the dissemination of all these different ideas and all these different kinds of people and all these different kinds of communities that are forming up around Pulsechain. So we've had to rapidly adapt and have to rapidly start to advance the collective consciousness, which is leading me to the main point now, which is the collective consciousness of Pulsechain. So like I said, we started with Hex. We started with the big dog, Richard Hart. So it all came from Richard Hart. So Richard Hart is like the consciousness behind all of this. So just like the universe is the consciousness behind everything, and in actuality, the universe is also the consciousness behind Richard Hart, but Richard Hart is the foundation of Hex and Pulsechain. And then you have the nucleus, which is the maxis, the 15-year stakers, the people who were talking about it from day dot, the people who really helped it grow. And then you've got the subset within the ecosystem, which is like the electrons. So you have like little different communities who are not so maxi, who are like in other kinds of communities. So that's people like myself. I love Hex, but I'm also in other kinds of communities. I like to keep in tune with that. And I like to understand a lot of other things, not just Hex. And obviously then it's advanced out to Pulsechain. So Pulsechain, PulseX is like the energetic force, so it's the blockchain. So you have like this network of energy, which is creating all of these different communities within Pulsechain. And again, it's the intelligence behind these communities. So the Tangang, you look at the Tangang, the formulation of the Tangang, how they operate. Some of it's good, some of it's good, some of it's not so good, in my opinion. I've been banned from the Telegram twice. I've been told to fuck off. I've been told that I'm hated. I've been told I'm a piece of shit. They'll troll some of my things, and it's like, okay, well, it does sting. In actuality, it actually does sting, and this is something where even the collective consciousness, I think, in Pulsechain is also going to advance. I think at the moment people are really I know that people are saying this is a good thing where the communities actually fight with each other. I don't actually want to get involved with that. I'm not interested in that whatsoever, because I'm sure it serves its purpose, and it is what it is. It's unfolding as it's going to unfold. There's nothing that I can do to stop that, but I'm personally not going to participate in that in the manner in which it's like the outrage marketing kind of vibe and the whole negative vibe. I really do not want to be involved with that, because I really do understand how energy works. Like, your words are energy, your tone is energy. And if you want to shit on somebody else, it actually, the shit hits their face, and it's poisonous and toxic to their mind. But we think it's like, oh, it's funny, it's making things grow. But yeah, maybe it does. I don't know. And like I said, it probably does, but it's personally not something that I want to be involved in. I want to be above it, and I want to just observe it, and I want to just keep being a positive force for the community and being a positive force for the whole of Pulsechain, not for any one particular community. So, but with that said, the Tang Gang are brilliant because of how they've formed and the kind of collectivization that they've created with the token HOA, Hex Origin Address, and how they've actually marketed it, how they go out, how they work together, how they form together to focus on particular things, and how they prop up the token. Brilliant, brilliant. Like too spooky, very intelligent human being. You can just tell. You listen to him for like 10 seconds and you're like, this guy knows what's up. Like he's the kind of guy that you want on your team. Like absolutely brilliant mind. And then of course they're also going to have the people who are like really hardcore, just like every community, who are like really protective. They're like the warriors. They will stab you and they will kill you if you do anything against them. They also serve their function, and I'm just trying to stay out of the way, but I keep getting stabbed and I keep getting punched, and I'm just like, bro, just leave me alone, please. But in any case, I still love the Tang Gang. Maybe one day I hope I can be in there, because I really do want to be in there just to continue to observe how they actually operate, because I love seeing these kinds of things, but been banned twice. Maybe third time lucky. Let's see. So, all right. Then you have the Atropa ecosystem and all the subsets within the Atropa ecosystem. You've got Fame, Fiat. So things that were created on other blockchains that are actually creating communities within this ecosystem, and they have their communities, and they have, like, there's Pulseform has been pointing it out, all their secret groups, whether they're malevolent or benevolent. I'll leave that for time to decide. You got PTGC, so the big community that formed up around PTGC, and props to you guys. You just had another breakout, all-time high the other day. So, and then they have all these different tokens within that ecosystem, and they're a development of the Atropa ecosystem. And in actuality, I see so many similarities between the Atropa ecosystem and the Tang Gang. It's unfortunate that they don't actually see the similarities. I see the similarities. That's what I focus on. I focus on the similarities, not the differentiations. Yes, there are differentiations, but I'm more interested in the similarities and the positivities between those similarities. Then Moon King, or the Crypto Kings, sorry, Ian. So really the Crypto Kings, like, they themselves are a force of consciousness within the ecosystem. Like Moon King going on to Crypto Banter, Moon King with his 60,000 followers, pumping up all these different kinds of coins. Now you've got Blast, the new one. So these are all communities that form around him, and he's interconnecting all these different, he's like bringing in all this, all this other energy from other ecosystems. You got 9inch, the ladsy dude, what's his name? Hexy Bastard, controversial figure, but also I've heard he's very intelligent. I don't really know too much about him. I've only seen like a few things, and the whole show pony stuff. And yeah, that's part of the marketing. That's what he does. That's fine. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but yeah, that's him, and it's going to attract and vibrate with different kinds of people. PP, UPEX. I'm hearing a lot about UPEX. Liquid Loans, like Liquid Loans is a brilliant protocol. I use it weekly. I'm in the staking, and I use it all the time, and it's just accumulating tokens. Brilliant. Power City, and like I said, Blast, all these other different kinds of tokens. They're all attracting different kinds of people, and it's creating this tension between all these different kinds of communities. And again, whether this tension is a good thing or a bad thing, it doesn't matter. It just is what it is. At first, I was like, man, I don't like this. It's too negative, but I also just have to accept it as it is. And as it is this is just where it is. So, okay, this is where it is. I'm just going to observe it, and I'm just going to keep being the force that I am into this ecosystem. That's all that I can do. And the diversity of the consciousness, that is, Somi always talks about this, how we got this loud megaphone, and there's like hundreds of content creators, 148 content creators, or whatever it is. And that's just YouTubers. Then you have all the Twitter guys, T-Bird, Kaiser, just pumping out like quality after quality after quality, like really top-notch people. Gold Key, like really top-notch people. Then, like I said, you've got the people who are like OGs, Crypto Coffee, RG3, Funding Gym, Discourse Syndicate, all these kinds of people. And then new people propping up. My Life is Awesome came in through Pulsechain, Corey Costa. Then you got like KDP, HVID Hex, like the honeys. We got the hottest honeys, like, and the babes. They serve their purpose too. Like everybody's serving their purpose and attracting different kinds of people based on different kinds of things. And I think I'd like to just add this to My Life is Awesome. He's really trying to kind of formulate like a strategy for what would be like the ultimate representation of the community. But I think the diversity is the representation of the community. The fact that RG3 can talk to a particular group of people, Funding Jim can talk to a particular group of people. He's just onboarded the Cardones. I'm not going to be able to onboard the Cardones. I'm just this, I'm a PP, I'm a poor pleb. I'm a poor pleb living out in Australia. I'm not at this time of my life, I do not have the networking power to actually have any kind of say. I don't really have the right to be talking to those types of people. One day I will. I do believe that I will. But at this current point in time, no, I don't. And so all these different people serve different functions within the ecosystem. They're all part of that consciousness. Whenever there's a problem, the community, straight away, the feedback loop between problem and solution is so fast. It's so fast. It's so phenomenal. That's definitely something that I don't see in other ecosystems. But again, I'm not deeply entrenched in those other ecosystems. I'm just commenting on what I see here in this ecosystem. And what I see here as well in this collective consciousness is this ecosystem has the truth. This ecosystem doesn't know that it has the truth, but Pulsechain has the consciousness of the truth that is filtering its way through this ecosystem. And wherever the truth is, it always works. The truth creates blessings because the truth is correct. Because the truth is right, then whatever is associated with the truth is blessed. And so this ecosystem has that full diversity of consciousness, and I'm just loving it. I'm loving participating. I'm loving adding my 2 cents, whether or not people like it or not. You know, I can already see, actually, I can already feel straight away, like, you know, when you have a really cold glass and you drink a glass of water and it's cold, and then if you have a sink full of hot water and you put the glass in there to wash it, the glass shatters. It's the same with energy. If your energy is too positive and somebody's too negative, they're gonna resent you. There's no harmony. There's a discord between the two energies. So I already know that people don't like me. They hate my positivity. I know those sorts of things as well, and it's just something that I'm gonna have to learn to deal with throughout my life. So this is all just that coming out